Hello, movie lovers. Today I want to talk about a very recent addition to the Criterion collection. This is an Adoption, 1975 movie from Hungary, and it's directed by Marta Mezaros. And I'm terrible with names, so please forgive me. I did my best to rehearse the names, but I always seem to mess them up. And before I start talking about Adoption, I always neglect to mention that in my recent videos, I've been trying to add links to the trailers for the individual films, and also links to other YouTubers who have video discussions on the same movie. And in this case, I'm going to link to Daisuke Beppu, who always gives you the most comprehensive Ivy League version of Criterion releases, and also a very good presentation by James over at 20th and 21st Century Movies. So they'll be in the description box below. Now, Adoption is a story about a 40-something-year-old woman. She works in a woodworking factory. She also has a shop at home, a wood shop at home, where seems to be making picture frames. And we learn her father had been a carpenter. So she seems to have a deep connection with her occupation. She is having an affair with a married man, a family man with children, and this is going on long term. But she does not pressure him into divorce or anything like that. She's satisfied with the way things are going, at least in the beginning of the movie. And this character's name is Kata, and she's played beautifully by Kala Lynn Burke. She becomes involved with some teenage girls from the local orphanage. They're basically more or less runaways, and she gets involved particularly with one girl who wants to get married, but she's still not old enough, and her parents, even though her parents have sloughed her off to this state institution, they refuse to give permission. So Kata becomes very much involved with this teenage girl, Anna, and Mezarash's approach is very documentary-like. This is her fifth feature film. And I have to mention, this film is a very famous film because it was the first film by a woman, the first film by a woman to win the Golden Bear, the top award of the Berlin Film Festival, the first Hungarian movie to ever be in competition at the Berlin. So this documentary approach and she had made many documentaries before she became a feature film director, and this being her fifth film. And her first films did not get a whole lot of notice. So Adoption is basically her introduction into world cinema. Like I say, there's a very claustrophobic feel. It took me a while to get into her style, and it's a very stylized movie. I mean, it's, like I say, mostly close-ups. It's kind of abstract. Once I got into the rhythm of her style and how rigorous and consistent it was, I actually started to like it. There's also there's really no sentimentality at all in the movie, and in the supplements we learn that Mezarach is very anti-sentimental, anti-Hollywood. And there's really very little humor, and I'm not that well acquainted with Eastern European films, but they always strike me as humorless. But then I did not endure Hitler and the Nazis and Stalin and the Bolsheviks. So yeah, I'm sure that's part of the explanation. Although there is some humor in it. There's a dinner where Kata and Anna go, and they become good friends, and they're kind of very friendly. But Mezarach looks at all the men in this restaurant, and they're all leering at them because there's some erotic quality about two women in a restaurant being very friendly with each other. And then there's a wedding too, which you would think would be a joyous occasion, but Mezerash goes over to, you know, people who are feeling very sad, and maybe the marriage itself is maybe a bit of a delusion. Yeah. And as we learn in the supplements, and there's some terrific supplements in this Criterion release, we learn that Mezerash very much focuses in on her entire career on lost children, abandoned children, parentless. Even if they have parents, the parents can't handle them. And according to Mezerash, this was a very big problem in Hungary in that era. And Mezerash herself, and you can see the autobiographical element when you learn about her life, where she, even though she was Hungarian, her father was very anti-Nazi, moved to the Soviet Union. He was an avant-garde sculptor, and he was part of Stalin's intellectual purge, so Stalin executed him, and then Mezerash's mother died of typhoid fever not long after that. And she eventually does come back to Hungary, but then goes back to the Soviet Union to study film, because the Hungarian Film Institute did not accept women. And Mezerash was married for 13 years to Miklos János, and who is probably the most famous Hungarian film director of the times. And a box set of his 5 of his films is coming out from Kino at the end of this month, and perhaps next month. And Mezerash says that her husband was very much interested in the political aspect and how the political aspect plays out in people's lives, where Mezerash says her own movies, she's more interested in human beings and how they individually shape history. But János was very supportive, and they stayed out of each other's movies. But when she was making documentaries, he was telling her, you got to get into feature filmmaking. And that was very unusual for a woman to do in that time. And a lot of people say, well, János will come, and you know she won't be able to do the job, and you know her husband will come and he'll start directing it and making sure. But he never was at any of her sets. So, and in the supplements that I mentioned, they're very good. A video essay by Catherine Portuguese. This is a brand new essay from 2022, and she wrote a book on the cinema of Mezerash. So. Obviously, there's lots of great, it's about a 20-minute presentation, really excellent. Then we see a German documentary from 1979, and this is fascinating too. I love to see directors at work, and there's a good bit of watching Mezerash as she's directing her movies, and some of the problems they have and disputes. The camera catches her in a dispute with her star, and then they realize they're being filmed and they have to back off. And the movie that they're filming is starring Delphine Seyrig, who I just watched Daughters of Darkness a few days ago and posted a video on. So it was fun watching her, Delphine Seyrig, who obviously wasn't speaking Hungarian, how, they were trying to communicate with each other. And after her adoption's success, Mezerash was able to attract some European film stars like Isabelle Huppert, and Anna Karina was also in one of her movies. Then we get a really, really good essay, and this is by Elena Garfinkel, and you can find it, and I got some of the information and quotes out of her essay, which you can read on this is actually in a Criterion booklet, and that is the lead actress, Catalin Burke. So this is loaded with information, but don't read the essay before you watch the movie, because she tells you the whole plot of the movie. The movie, like I say, was an international success, but Mezerash had not gotten any good reviews in Hungary itself. And she didn't get very many for adoption either, according to the supplements. And in particular, Catalin Burke was singled out for giving a terrible performance. I don't know. She was a stage actor. I mean, this is a really good, well thought out performance. Just that, you know, it's muted. You know, it's on a different tone, and you have to get into the tone of the film to really appreciate what Mezrach wants from her actors, and I think Catalin Burke really delivered in that department. So again, this is, you know, I've never seen any movies by Mezrach. I want to see some more. I like her style. I really, by the end of the film, I was very intrigued by her very unique style of directing. Okay, so thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen to me this far. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. You guys take care.